I love how fiery Bernie Sanders gets when he talks about issues involving income or wealth inequality, when he talks about campaign finance reform. In this town hall, I saw a toned-down version of Bernie Sanders, which I think does speak well to a lot of other people who maybe don't want a yelling politician. But at the same time, Hillary's performance didn't really strike me as anything unique or exciting. So I don't know who the biggest winner is. I just know that based on some of the answers that they gave, they both had their weaknesses. Bernie Sanders, I wish, did a little better on foreign policy. I got to be honest with you.
Although Hillary's answers in that area, I didn't find particularly convincing,
They weren't
especially
that good,
the Iraq thing, which she's been asked 20 times about that in the past month, and that's the best shit that she could muster there. Well, it was really Bush's fault.
Not only the Iraq thing, Hillary Clinton decided to bring up Benghazi herself. I don't know why she would do that. I think that's a really bad idea.
Yeah, and as Ben pointed out, the way that she talked about Benghazi. But no, but I was going to say, even if you're going to blame it on the Bush administration, there are better ways to blame it on the Bush administration. Say that I authorized military action. I was convinced by his advisors and the military advisors, political advisors, that this would be a limited short-term conflict. Obviously, they were either lying or incompetent. You could say that. And they did say many times it would be short term.
I think that's a version of the answers she gives.
Yeah, maybe.
I think that people, especially, look, people don't like her, right? Some of that is sexist. Some of that is people not knowing her history. Some of that is right-wing hatred. And some of it is
people knowing her
history. She seems like an untrustworthy, lying sellout, and
which some people don't like.
Which, whatever, go figure. There's no accounting.
Something about them, I think.
So I would try to what was that number she had in polling in Iowa on trustworthiness? 10% trust her? 10?
Oh, I didn't see that.
Of Democrats?
Well, that's what you said. You said you don't mind if they lie. I want to come back to that. Do you mean that?
100%. I don't care.
Why?
I don't expect a president to tell the truth. We're not friends. I'm not I'd be upset if he slept with my wife.
But we put them there.
Yes, we put them there.
They're accountable. If they're not accountable to us, who are they accountable to?
Well, there's a difference between being accountable and telling me the truth. What are they lying about? What's the context of the lie? And does the lie help me? Did the lie help the country?
Well, but then hang on a second. Then you have to then be their moral arbiter.
That's right.
So But sorry, that's not an answer. And well, it's not a very good answer because you're then having to monitor them in a way that you can't possibly do it because you're not privy to all the information.
Let me jump in for a second. Since we're talking about lies and we're talking about who gets to hold these politicians accountable, we should watch one of Hillary's answers regarding Goldman Sachs, video number 2.
One of the things that Senator Sanders points to and a lot of your critics point to is you made 3 speeches for Goldman Sachs. You were paid $675,000 for 3 speeches. Was that a mistake? I mean, was that a bad error in judgment?
Look, I made speeches to lots of groups. I told them what I thought. I answered questions.
But did you have to be paid $675,000?
Well, I don't know. That's what they offered. So, but anybody who knows me, who thinks that they can influence me, name anything they've influenced me on. Just name one thing. I'm out here every day saying I'm going to shut them down. I'm going after them. I'm going to jail them if they should be jailed. I'm going to break them up. I mean, they're not giving me very much money now. I can tell you that much. Fine with me. I'm proud to have 90% of my donations from small donors and 60%, the highest ever from women, which I'm really, really proud of.
So we have to look into just what percentage of her donors are actually.
I read in Q4 it was 15%.
15%?
Yeah, I'm going to have to find multiple sources on that. But
right. That was not the best answer.
Because what she's doing is, when you say 15% came from small donors, you're supposed to be talking about, 70%. That should be $700 out of 1,000 came from small donors. There were 70 donations, 67 of them were for $15, and a couple were for $10 million. That's how you manipulate that.
Yeah, right, but that's what that number means.
That's why you should follow up if you're Anderson Cooper. And when she says, can you come up with one way it's influenced it? He's only been covering the news every day for the past 7 years. He can't come up with anything.
That's where he should have had the Glass-Steagall conversation.
At the very least.
And the breaking up of the banks conversation. I mean, that's just... And then she can answer that. I think her answer was fine. It was interesting. I find most of that. I know you want to get back to how I think it's okay for politicians to lie.
But
Like how she lied about she didn't know she wanted to be president when those speeches were paid for?
Yeah, I don't know.
That's a lie.
Probably, but who knows? That's all in her head, so we'll never know. But the backing up, like, you know, I'm curious what I think most of this is mumbo jumbo. But when he asked her about the $675,000, she was literally retreating.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah, it'd be worth watching again. Maybe cue that 12 up again, and we'll just watch the video because she's literally backing up, which I thought was kind of yeah. So actually, let's see if I got this right. So he's asking her the question, and she's holding her ground. She's holding her ground, nodding. Was that a mistake?
She's like, this guy asking me about that money again. God damn it.
What was this in my head?
Nope.
There we go.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
She's leaving. You're losing her.
Right.
And then, like, as she's doing was that a mistake? No, and she did it again. She had another moment as we moved on where she backed up a little bit more.
But that's
I
the
get
thing
that.
about, sorry, we keep interrupting each other, but let me just get this point out of the way. I feel like she's such an establishment candidate. She's a career politician, right? And she's played by those rules for such a long period of time. I'm sure some part of her is somewhat flummoxed by the fact that this question keeps coming up, right? Like, she's never had to deal with this question as much as she's dealing with now, right? No politician has had to really deal with this question. And the fact that Bernie Sanders changed the rhetoric and the conversations involving campaign finance, I think speaks volumes of what he has already provided for the country.
Well, she's probably pissed about the 675 keeps being brought up. She's thinking in her mind, me and Bill have been given over $100 million in speaking fees since he was president. And you're focused on the 675,000?
That's what I'd like her, but to me, half what I'd like her to say. I'm an incredibly rich woman. $675,000 didn't mean anything.
She's like, I give a lot of speeches. Yeah, but most people don't receive hundreds of thousands of dollars. Some of them better speakers than you. So when she says, well, that's what they offered, the follow-up question is, why do you think they offered that much money? The idea that you could be involved in politics for decades and not get look, she thinks she has all the integrity in the world. Every politician does. But everybody knows they're trying to buy these politicians. They're not just super generous on Wall Street.
I got it, but she also got $300,000 to speak at colleges, right? Like
I think that colleges pay too much too.
I
was on the funding board at UConn, and I tried to shoot down.
She got, I think, 300. Because Howard Dean had that issue where he said she didn't get hundreds of thousands of dollars to speak at colleges, and then the producer of Morning Joe came out and was like, no, she got two. I don't remember the schools. I think one of them was Harvard, maybe Georgia. I don't know, whatever. She got a lot of money, and one of them hit $300,000 to speak at some college.
I can explain why colleges pay that much.
I got it, but. If you're her,
it is financial, by the way.
Right, but I mean, to her, she would say, like, I'm not lobbying for the government funding of their tuition. Like, I'm not. They don't have me. They don't own me because they paid me. This is what they offered. I go speak.
Well, technically, she is pushing for government funding of some of their tuition right now. She wants to provide free tuition for those public colleges.
Right,
which I'm in favor of.
But I'm pretty sure she'd get $300,000 from a public college. That would be.
Yeah,
I pray to God that it was not a public college, but.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think that's the answer. I mean, I would, if I'm answering it from a political, because it's obviously a political liability. The question is, how do you handle it? I would say to Anderson Cooper, what do you think it was?
Her answers repeatedly gave the idea that she has never even thought about why she would be getting paid that much. Doesn't everybody get hundreds of thousands of dollars for speeches?
No, it's not. It's that's my rate. That's what I charge.
Yeah, that's my rate.
I charge $250 a go.
Because you're so damn interesting, your voice is so melodic. No, it's because you're connected to powerful people, and we expect that you might be president someday.
I don't know when
investment. They're literally investors. That's what they do every day.
Yeah, but
I mean,
she doesn't get the idea of a political investment.
You're being too tough on her because remember, in 2007, right before the economy tanked, she did go to NASDAQ and she did wag her finger and she did tell them to stop it. So, you know what? Ben's right. That money hasn't influenced her whatsoever.
I don't know. When you're that rich, I mean, $675,000 would buy nothing.
There's a lot of rich politicians that get bought so cheaply. It's insane.
I know, but it's campaign donation. I don't think it's the speech. I really don't think the speeches mean nothing to me. Again, I got it. I'm clearly more cynical than you guys, but that doesn't bother me in any way that she got those speeches. That's literally what they paid. That's what rich people do. Right. And rich people who runs for president, except Bernie Sanders.
So there's a little bit of a disagreement there.